is what it is. Okay, so I'm already on the home page, but I want to just say, let's forget it. We don't know. We don't have any access. We don't know where we're going. We're going to start from scratch. If you Google LACC library, easiest way to get here, right out of the gate, you'll get the MLK, our MLK library. Click on that, and it brings you to this page. Okay. Now, a couple things. I'm going to move me over here. There's a login up here. Don't worry about this right now, but at some point you're going to have to log in to access the periodicals, the things that are available in our library. Okay, so the first thing we do, open our main library, and it's automatically going to bring you to this here, this one search. Okay, so this is where you can begin the process. So the question now becomes, what are you searching for? And if we go to our assignment, it's going to tell you applied peer-reviewed research from the last 5 years. Okay, well, what do I mean by applied? Applied. Think about the careers in the room right now. What careers do we have? Yeah, but specific. So PE teacher, right? Fitness professional working with seniors, physical therapist, athletic trainer, unsure. Okay. Adapted physical education, occupational therapist. So do they just sit in a cubicle and work on a computer? No. What do? What do they do with exercise to other people? They apply it. Okay. So it's important for us to have that distinction, the application portion. You're going to find that there's going to be some theoretical research. Usually most of the research in our field has some application dynamics to it, right? Because we're applying some sort of treatment, some sort of exercise, some sort of lesson, right? Making sense? So when you look for your research, it has to be, I want you to base it around something you're interested in from an application perspective. So having said that, think about your particular career, shout out some things that you might be interested in looking up. Resistance bands. Okay. So we can look at how resistance, and if I just for fun, watch what happens when I put in resistance bands. So now I'm in the library, and this first thing that comes up before we look at anything, it's going to want you to sign in. So you're going to sign in. You have to log into your PeopleSoft account, and then it'll bring you right back. Now you're logged in, you can access all the things, and you see up on the right-hand corner here that I'm actually logged in. And let's just do this so you can see. Yeah, here's Spotlight. Here we go. So right up here on the right, you're going to see. Now, we got to look at some other stuff. Let me move this over a little bit. So resistance bands, it's kind of a general thing. But what I say in the assignment that you need to do, it's got to be peer-reviewed. That's another fancy term for scholarly journal. So you're going to click this. Okay, these are all check marks here. And at the bottom of the page, then you'll say apply filters. So I want to, because right now, when I put in resistance bands, look at this, what I have. 27,684 results. Are you going to be able to peruse and look through 27,000 results? No, you'd be here for a year. Okay. So we've got to get a little better at focusing this inquiry. Okay. First things first, we're going to go to Scholarly Journal. Keep an eye on this 27,684. Let's just apply it. Okay, we dropped about 5,000, right? So now we're at 22. Still way too much to look at though, right? Next thing I said it's got to be within the last 5 years. Well, based on this search, you're going to see down here publication date. It's from 1901 to 2025. I don't want anything from 1901. I don't want anything from 1981. I don't want anything from 2011. Okay. I want it to be the last 5 years because that's going to be more recent. So what the first thing I'm going to do here is go into 5 years ago is what? What year? 2020. So I put that in and I'm going to click that. I'm going to apply that. So now as you apply all these filters, look up here. Once this, it's going to tell you what you have now. And then I can lock this and it will remember your filters. But right now I still want to put some more. So we went from 22,000 to 9,694. Better, right? Okay. But still too many. Now let's go down. We want online. The library doesn't have access to every single thing, but it's going to list it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click online. I'm going to apply that filter. And then you can do this all at once. You don't have to do this independently. I just want to show you what happens. It didn't change it that much, did it? Okay. So we got a lot of stuff. The final thing, if I go down to show more, journal language, okay? So you're going to see there's other languages. You got to stick with English. Click that. And you're going to find that that's kind of everything that we've got. And it's still 9,584. Now, because we selected Scholarly Journal up here, you're going to notice that every single one of these will now have this little button or this little icon that says peer reviewed. Okay. That's what we always want to see. Now, I could do one of two things. I can continue to, I can still what we call, this is called Boolean searching, where we start to change, well, when we change, excuse me, I haven't done it yet, but if we start to change the way we do the search, we can probably get this to a smaller number. But as I'm looking at this right now, I see a couple things right out of the gate, because this is based on, I think it's based on most pertinent. I forget how the filter. Yeah, so you've already got this effects of resistance bands, exercise for frail older adults, a systematic review and a meta-analysis of randomized control studies. So what's a meta-analysis? Yep. So, and what is the meta-analysis looking at? Yep, it's looking at a summary of all the scholarly peer-reviewed journal articles that are related to this. So that would be a really powerful one for you to potentially look at. Now, we haven't, I want to just show you how we can still get this number down, because it might, you might search something and it might not, like this landed on what we were kind of looking for. Not only that, it landed on older adults, right? Yeah. So like we didn't even try to do that and it already kind of honed in on it. It doesn't usually work that way. So let's pretend we're not there. And I want to show you over here, you have this advanced search. Now, when you open this up, and all below, you'll see everything, but you're going to see the search filters. We are going to look at, and we could modify it. I've never actually modified these up here. We want to stick with articles. We want to make sure they're available online, which we've already got, but you're going to see these search filters. Any field, title, author, subject, ISBN if you knew that number. Contains, right now it contains these two words. You could say exact phrase, right? That's going to make this a little bit better in that it's now basically saying, no, this is the exact thing that we're searching for, okay? So let's play with this and let's put this in the title and let's see what happens. Everyone good with that? Okay, so I'm gonna hit search and it's gonna keep all those other things over there. Ooh, it didn't. Shoot, I meant to lock that. So we got to go back. Yep, that's okay. Yeah, so I meant to lock that. So let's just show you how to do that. So 2020, we're gonna go scholarly, and we're gonna go English language. There it is. You already see there's actually quite a bit less. So let me lock that. So now I'm going to remember all the filters so I don't have to do that again. I'm just going to lock it. And now you see all of those have been locked. Let me get the, what's happening to my, Hmm? Oh, now what do we got? Look at how many we got now. Is that manageable? Yeah, 31 is manageable. Okay. Way different. Now, what you're going to notice, for whatever reason, and it looks like they're doing it by year, you're going to see that the article that we first found is now the second article. Fine. But this top one, weights, resistance bands, and rest days are best for tendinopathy. Okay. Are we looking up tendinopathy? No, we were looking at just overall, like we want to know how resistance bands might be beneficial. We haven't even put in older adults, but let's just peruse this. This is your next step. Now that you got a manageable number, you start reading the titles right out of the gate. I don't care about this, do I? Based on what you're looking for. Okay. So no, but this one is interesting, right? So now the question is, well, that's pretty darn interesting. So now what do I do? Click on it. I want you to read the abstract. Remember, the abstract is the summary. It's going to tell you whether or not I even want to get this article. So let's click on it. Yep. And then the abstract will kind of be here for you. You could also open it if you wanted to, but let's just read it. Aims and objective research examining the effectiveness of resistance band exercises for improving physical and psychological dimensions among frail older adults has been inconsistent. We aim to examine the effects of resistance band exercise for improving outcomes in frail older adults. Background to provide robust evidence regarding the effectiveness of resistance band exercise and explore the potential outcomes in frail older adults. A systematic review of randomized controlled trials remains necessary. Design, systematic literature review, and meta-analysis were conducted in accordance with the PRISM guidelines, or PRISMA guidelines. Methods for databases were searched. English language papers were retrieved from 2006 to 2020. 3 reviewers reviewed the methodology of the selected studies using the Jonah Briggs Institute tool for randomized controlled trials. The pool standardized mean difference was calculated using Do we care about all this stuff right now? No, not for you guys. I want to get to this right here. It says overall. Okay, so they got a bunch of studies. They filtered them out based on certain criteria. People looked at this stuff. Overall, resistance band exercise reduced frailty after 24 weeks and reduced depression after both 12 weeks and 24 weeks. However, no significant effects were observed for frailty after 12 weeks, and no significant effects were observed for grip strength, leg strength, and activities of daily living or quality of life at any time. And now we get to the conclusion. Resistance band exercise might be considered a viable strategy for frail older adults in the community or in long-term care facilities. More research implementing a standardized protocol remains necessary to identify the effects of different training volumes and dose-response relationship for the very old and frail population. Relevance to clinical practice as a safety complementary intervention for frail older adults. Health providers should consider resistance band exercise when caring for frail older adults because this intervention has some clinical benefits. Okay, seems to work. That's not rocket science, but now the question is this what you want to look at? No? Want to keep going? Want to look for something? And so let's hone in on what do you, because right now, based on what we've looked, this is compelling. Are you in what do you want to learn more about resistance bands? What was specifically? Okay. I could keep just reading, but see, right? Yeah, we've got junior tennis players. Like that's not your wheelhouse. So instead of typing in just for our own education purposes, let's go back to my advanced search go. I can enter a search and contains the field what? It's older adults. That's fine. That's fine. Now I got 3 articles. Effects of resistance band for older adults. We looked at that. Effects of exercise training on using resistance bands on glycemic control and strength and type 2 diabetes meta-analysis. Accuracy of using elastic resistance bands to evaluate muscular strength. Maybe we got to look at it, but now you only got 3. So what did this search became almost too specific, right? So maybe I just go back to adults and I've got 3 more. There's that systematic review, ocular training. But so this is where my question to you is, what do you want to learn? What part of resistance band training in senior adults are you interested in learning? Like, what is it specifically that you're trying to discover? Tell me in your own words. The effects. Well, we got the effects. On what? What do you mean functional ability? So we got to get specific. What do we call functional ability for seniors? What do we call these basic things? Sitting down on the toilet, getting up, standing down. ADLs, activities of daily living. So now let's try that. Let's go back here. I'm going to say ADLs. And I'm just going to put it, ADL like that. Let's see what happens. Might not get anything. Nothing. Okay, so activities. So what we're going to have to probably do, see if that changes it. It does. We get that meta-analysis. Now, I think you should look at this meta-analysis. So let's go back for a second, okay? This is just me. So here it is. When you're going to look at a research article, this is so annoying. Can't move this. Okay, you have a couple options. You have this link that says available online. You have this link down here. I usually just go, it's going to take you to the same place, but sometimes you might find that there's multiple databases that you can click through. Doesn't matter where. So I'm going to click that one. It brings me to a new page. It's going to want me to make sure I'm logged into LACCD, because that's the permission that basically our library has paid for this. So now you see, here's the article. And here, we can read it this way, but now because it's available to us, we also can download it as a PDF, which I would suggest you do. The PDFs are going to be much easier to download, use, because you're also going to have to turn in the PDF to me if you use this article. Okay, so I'm going to click download over here. It's loading. Did you know you can save it? Okay, so there it is, but that I want it as something that you can submit. So I'm going to allow that. I want to open it up. See how my computer just downloaded it? It's right up here. And now I have it set. Your computers might be set to open PDFs in Google. Do you know how to fix that? Okay, that's in your settings. Do I have Chrome? I'm using Safari. Chrome, I'll show you how to do that. So you want your PDFs to open outside of the browser. It's best and we'll show you how to do that. How many of you have Google Chrome? That's your primary browser. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. Because my personal take, when they're inside of Google, you've got to navigate the Google system. PDF has some functionality that I want to show you that can help you as you're reading this article. So for now, let's just do this and then I'll get to that. I want to come back to this. So it's kind of small. You can see though, I can just blow it up. Here we go. Okay. And remember, let's go change you notice how it was like stuttering as I was scrolling. Okay. And it's set right now to, let's go to where am I setting? Okay. Let's go view. It's on single page view. Everyone see this? If you move to enable scrolling, it'll be smooth. And so you can kind of read a lot more like a an online book, right? Instead of it just jumping from page to page. Okay. So that was in the view. All right. So now what I want to do is, just because we're looking at this one, we got the introduction. There's a bunch of reasons why they're doing this. You know, with meta-analysis, it's going to show you all the different research articles that it kept, right? Into the survey, into the search, excuse me, into the query, and to generate this. So I want to kind of blow through that because I want to get down towards the conversation that the researchers are having to see if this is even going to be pertinent to what I'm looking at. The other thing about a meta-analysis, just to bring it to your attention, is maybe one of the articles has a little bit more specific stuff about training, right? Because all of the articles in meta-analysis are similar, but they're different, right? So you might find, just by looking at the meta-analysis, another good high-quality randomized control trial that's specific to, hey, these are the reps and sets that you do with an older adult with resistance bands. That makes sense? Okay. So I think that's why I was saying it's pretty beneficial to read this. Now, the challenge is we might not have access to all of those articles. So you have to look for it, and we can do that in a minute. All right. So here's the conclusion. I really wanted to get a little higher than that. Where are we in discussion, right? Remember, discussion is where the authors are going to start to interpret all of this data they collected. So the primary objective of this study was to systematically examine previous randomized controlled trials exploring the effectiveness of resistance band exercise on improving frailty status. Everyone understand what frailty is? It's literally the condition of having low muscle mass, low bone density, that when someone's frail, right, they're weak, they're less than capable, they're worried, right? Psychological impact of being frail is, what if I fall? I'm not going to try that. So all of these things are psychological and physiological things that happen when someone is diagnosed as being frail. It's an actual diagnosis. But that's because of all of the cumulative body changes that have happened without any exercise, without any resistance training. This is the argument for resistance training until you're dead, because it can prevent frailty. It can make you stay active. It has tremendous implications for your mental health as an older person. So when you're teaching your kids in PE, you got to let them know, you have got to do this stuff until you're dead. Does that make sense? Because otherwise, you're going to be someone who is going to be afraid of doing anything. And that is a terrifying. Anyone know people that are frail? Grandparents? Any of those guys that you know? Okay. And then all of a sudden it was like, boom, right? So the walking was something. It was a big part of her. Yep. And then all of a sudden you literally, it's like the body is shutting down. The argument would be, well, if we could maintain exercise and ideally resistance training, I don't care if you're a man or woman or whatever, it doesn't matter. You got to do resistance training because it slows down dramatically all the aging processes. Okay. So it's just important, I think, to look at the frail thing and understand that it's actually a clinical diagnosis. And when people get frail, life expectancy just plummets. Make sense? Okay. Let's read. Let's see if it prevents or not. We don't know yet. Yeah. Frailty. Frailty is it's the adverb, right? Describing a condition or a state that man is suffering from frailty, or you could say that man he's frail, right? Okay. But frailty would be that, or would be that sort of diagnosis. Okay, so we got this, that randomized control trials to explore the effectiveness of resistance band and exercise on improving frailty status, grip strength. This was the objective of this query. Leg strength, ADLs, activity of daily living, depression, and quality of life among frail older adults. The present meta-analysis showed that the resistance band exercise significantly reduced the burden of frailty at 24 weeks and decreased depression symptoms at all examined time points among frail older adults. Okay, that's huge. Okay, so 24 weeks of resistance training, they're saying it decreased frailty. And at any point that they looked at this, people's sense of self and, psychological health improved. Okay. This suggesting the beneficial effects of resistance exercise using elastic bands among frail older adults. Clinical settings, including practitioners within the community or long-term care facilities, can offer this intervention to frail older adults. Now it's going to go on and kind of talk through this. The majority of the findings in the frail older adults have indicated that this population experiences decline in strength, endurance, balance, and mobility. Thus, an appropriate intervention is necessary to address these problems, such as implementation of resistance exercises using as elastic bands. I mean, why would we use elastic bands? Let's talk about that. Yeah, but why not use weights? Well, if I push up on an elastic band, it's going to pull me down, right? Keep thinking. That's a good, yep, you can use it. Say it again. Weights pull me down. I need gravity, right? Elastic bands, I can position into different positions and get the resistance regardless of where gravity is. So the line of pull gives me more flexibility, no pun intended, right? What else is beneficial about elastic bands or resistance bands versus weights? Way more portable. You don't need to have a car full of weights, right? Bottoming out. Okay. What else about all of those weights? Keep going. You're thinking too close. Step back for a second. What's more expensive? Metal. Yeah. So way more portable. I can have different resistances, inexpensive intervention. So you're not breaking the bank doing some of this work, right? Yeah, that's a big deal. So we got a really cost effective intervention that gives me more options. Wow, that's really important. Would we love to do some resistance training like with weights at some point? Sure. But it might not be realistic, especially if people are, because where are frail people going to be? If they're not they're not in like some sort of assisted living environment, where are you typically going to find them? In their home. They might not even want to come out of their home. So how are you going to get them to the gym? You got to bring it to them, right? And so bringing bands. And to your point, weights can be intimidating, right? If you've never used them. So you pull out this little stretchy thing and all of a sudden you've got the same benefits. Now, the one difference between a band and weight against gravity is what? When you keep pulling that band, what happens to the resistance? It increases. So it's a little bit of a different stress than I put the weight on. The weight is the same no matter where I am in the gravitational, space. Still, yeah, I mean, there's probably stuff out there to verify it. The thing you'd have to be, and again, for a frail older adult who's deconditioned, it's not like you're gonna be like, all right, here's the heaviest band I got, right? We've all used heavy bands where you're like, I can't pull it anymore. Even if it starts out light and then it gets the resistance, that's going to be, again, bang for buck. That's what you need to focus on. That makes sense? Yeah. But it's just something to think about, that bands offer a different it's a different mechanical type of resistance than traditional weights. Just always remember that and put that in the back of your brain, especially if you're working in athletics or high level performance, because you're going to be working with younger bodies that are stronger. That if I have a band, like a band around the barbell, which we do, that's called accommodated resistance, basically to change the stressor. When I stand up and imagine a band around my barbell on the ends and it's connected to the floor, I squat down. And then what happens when I stand up? As I go higher and higher and higher, harder and harder, and that changes the stress on the body. So for a long time, you might say, I'm just doing regular squats, but eventually banded squats and banded exercises can be really, really powerful for performance and add new stress to a traditional exercise that you might have accommodated to. What's that? Yeah, but you'd want to, that'd be more of a squat, but you could certainly do it with bench. You could do it with rowing. You could do it with pull-ups, right? Gets a little harder because you got to figure out where am I going to put the band, and you really do need equipment because you need specialized equipment that allows the bands to be connected to the floor. Like squat racks, ours doesn't have it, and it's something I've been meaning to buy, but they have little pegs that go into different areas of the squat rack that allow the bands to be placed there so that they can offer this extra resistance. But most of our athletes just need basic strength training. They don't need all this extra fancy stuff. This would be for someone who's really probably got a lot more weight training history development under their belt. And yeah, but usually strong, like a strong for max strength. This is where we really see the band stuff. Olympic weight training is gonna be a little different because it's gonna be explosive, and you don't want to slow down that explosiveness. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's like, I only mention it. We're talking literally complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Frail older adult resistance bands, perfect. But there's this whole other use that I think is important for you just to know in the back of your brain for bands in athletic performance. Okay. You are. So this is now going to talk a little bit. This is appropriate intervention. I'm just going to try and skim through this. Routine and long duration, greater than 6 months resistance exercise have been demonstrated to be effective for improving both physical and physiological dimensions in frail older adults. Previous studies have reported that the resistance band exercises are among the best type of resistance exercises at increasing muscle strength. So this is your paper because it's telling you everything, but you've got to spend a little time going through this discussion. So you see here as an example, they said it's been demonstrated to be effective for improving both physical and physiological dimensions in frail older adults. Now you see the citation, Silva et al. 2017. Maybe you're interested in that paper. Let's just play that game for a second, okay? So now I'm going to go down to the works cited. It's always in alphabetical order. So Silva, let's find the S's. And by the way, look at all the research that's gone into just putting this article together, right? Okay, so let's copy this. And now we're going to go back to our library. We could do one of two things. We could actually click right on that DOI link, but you got to go through the library to see if the library has access to it. Okay. So I'm going to move this down, come back to my web page here. And let's close that. Remind me to show you about how to change your view on PDFs in Chrome, okay, before we're done. All right, so let's go now to our library, which was here. This was our search. And before I leave this, oh boy, got a lot of things going on. I'm going to open up another search. I'm just going to put that whole title in there. And what you'll find, you should find, okay, doesn't see it. So either let's finding it. Let's go DOI. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. Sometimes you got to get a little creative. Is this it? Let's see. No, it's not it. So Journal of Frailty and Aging. Let's keep looking. I'm just going to trim this down. Silva. I'm going to just use their names. Because sometimes what's going on? I'm going to go one. This might be too limited. Yeah, we got too many with him. So what was the title of the article? Let's go back here. That's probably going to be, whoops. Let's grab the article. The effects of physical exercise. Let's just do this. So don't give up if it's not popping up. There it is. Because sometimes the citation might have a couple funky things in it that the library isn't recognizing. Put the title, and then now I want to look at this. This seems to be it, but I don't see Silva's name in there. This is from 2015, so it's a little different. This isn't the same article. Now, the other thing to do, and this is why this part of this takes time, and you have to have some patience. This isn't for the faint of heart. So let's go back to what I want to grab is let's just grab that this website, and let's just see what pops up and if we can get access to it. Okay, so now I'm going to go back. Can't see this thing. There we go. So that's there, but we did get something. Oh my God, leave me alone. What are you doing? Show less. No. Paste. It's not seeing it. So don't know. I don't, we got some interesting stuff for systematic review randomized control trials. So this was from 2015. Let's just look at it. Because this is now going to talk specifically more about the intervention. And you're going to see now this is a good example of how many different locations it can be pulled from. The older an article is, usually it's going to probably live in a few different databases. Okay. So let's just go to, it doesn't matter which one. I can even click up here. I can even click get the PDF, but let's just go to online. Oh, it sends you here. And so now we're looking at this one. And I can do all the same stuff. I can download it to the PDF. But I want to look at the results here. This is the abstract. Of the 507 articles, 9 papers met the inclusion criteria. Of these, 6 included multi-component exercise interventions, aerobic and resistance training, not coexisting in the intervention. So it looks like they've got different papers of one is resistance training, one is aerobics. So it's not together. 1 included physical comprehensive training, and 2 included exercise based on strength training. Of the all 9 of these trials included control group receiving no treatment. Remember, we talked briefly about control groups, right? Randomized control trials. These are the best types of research because there's a group that's not doing anything. In that group, you keep an eye on them. If something changes, something's wrong with your whole intervention. So the best higher level research that's not a meta-analysis will be this RCTs. You'll see that acronym used all the time. RCT means randomized control trial. That's a good thing. Okay. All 9 of these trials included the control group. Let's see what they said. Oh, here's the conclusion. Finally, 1 trial investigated exercise interventions demonstrated. Okay. So it shows exercise interventions depending on what they were. 7 trials investigated the effects of exercise intervention on muscle strength and 5 on reported increases. 3 trials investigated the effects of exercise training on body composition, finding improvements in this parameter. 2, finally, 1 trial investigated the effects of exercise and frailty using Field's criteria and found an improvement in this measure. Exercise interventions have demonstrated improvement in different outcome measurements in frail older adults. However, there were large differences between studies with regard to effect size. So we see that just out of that without even reading it, I can tell you, and we know this, we can get people stronger at any point in their life, even if they're frail. Okay, even if they're 90, even I have 100-year-old people getting stronger in the literature. The challenge with getting, putting some of these trials together is I got to get a bunch of older people, right? How many 100-year-olds can I grab? Right. you know 5, that's impressive, but that's not a huge segment of the population. So putting it together can sometimes be challenging. There's plenty of research on 80-year-olds. There's plenty of research on 90-year-olds, centenarians, which are 100-year-old people. it's a little harder. And I saw some research that actually had 90-year-olds and 100-year-olds kind of mixed in for all intents and purposes. But we know very clearly that resistance training works. Doesn't matter how old you are. Okay, so this would be another way where you can use the previous research to look up something maybe that's got a little bit of a different focus. This is more based not on the resistance bands now, but just on resistance training and exercise. That makes sense? Okay. Now, let's go back to this for a second. So let's pretend this is the article I'm going to use. This was the second article that we just found. Okay, do you see this button right here? Citation. Do you need to have a reference page in your paper? You do. So you click on that citation, and this is the beauty of this. It gives you the citation. So you do not have to figure out how to format this. Now, what you'll notice, APA is what we use in Kin. I always pull APA, so it always defaults to that. But all I got to do is open up a Word doc. And this is normally what I do whenever I'm doing research, so I can keep track of my works cited. So I'm going to copy that citation. I'm going to go to my Word doc, and I'm going to paste it in there. Now be mindful, that looks a little different than that one, doesn't it? What's the difference? How is this one indented? Yep. The underlines, the lines below are the ones that are indented, 5 spaces. That is a format in APA. So what you would then need to do is I would square that up, and you have to move these over. Yep. So if you go up here into your little triangle, I can pull that over to, it's a 1/2 inch. APA format. And then the other thing, you're going to notice that this URL doesn't work. So I'm going to put my cursor right up against that URL and hit space to turn that URL on. Now, if I do another one, because I formatted it once, and then your reference page will always look like this. You center, and then the rest are going to be left justified as they are, with a 1/2 inch hanging. They call this the hanging indent, is what the technical term is, but I'm going to put it over here. That you see the ruler up top here, right? And you'll notice that when I get to here, it's that bottom triangle is the one that I slid over to do that. Okay, so let's get another one. I want to show you. You just missed something. That's all right. Okay, so let's go to the first article that we found, which was this one. We'll redo this. So here's the citation. We click on the citation. APA is already selected, but just for fun, let's look at MLA. It doesn't look that different. That one does, right? That one does. You see how much changes? APA is double space because that's the formatting for APA. Always double space. MLA is also double space, but it's just structured different. Okay. So always make sure it's APA. We're going to copy that. Okay. And then we're going to bring it over to the first one we found. And what did I say? It was supposed to be alphabetical order, right? So DA comes before DE, right? So I'm going to put this one down, and right now it's not double spaced. We'll fix that. I'm going to paste it, and notice that it automatically put it into that the hanging indent. I didn't have to move it over. Okay, so before, just so you're aware, when we copied and pasted it, it looked like this. And you need to make sure that it's a 1/2 inch moved over. That's APA style. And then also, I want you to be real anal about this. You notice this? There is a space there. That is wrong. You want this to be justified to the left. Okay? The last piece to your paper is it's supposed to always be double spaced. So when you're done, and this is in the final paper instructions, you would just go here into Word and you would move it to 2.0. That's line spacing. And now you would see this. I got a big bunch of stuff here, so I want to get rid of that. And typically you're going to do this. You're going to make that bold. Okay, so it stands out. There should be one space in between each of these. So your bibliography or your references should look, and I would put one space there, should look handsome. And should look uniform. And that's what I mean. Like all of them should be in line. It should look, it is what it is. There's formatting involved, but you don't have to learn all the formatting. The system will do it for you. You just have to know how to take advantage of that. Does that make sense? Okay. So I keep just is you're looking at, you only need one research article, but in parts of your paper, when you're doing the history, because the history of your careers isn't particularly common knowledge, you're going to have some citations. Okay. Now it can be from a web page. That's fine. But then you're going to have to look over here. Remember, I provided you with this link. It's in each assignment of portions of the paper. I have it bookmarked because I'm there all the time. In-text citations, Purdue Online Writing Lab, and I'm in APA format right now. Okay. So sometimes I have to look at this to remind myself, how am I going to do my in-text citation? If it's one author, this is how I do it. You're going to see an option. I can write, if the author, it's a single author, the article is written in 2016, you can use the author's name as part of your sentence and then just put in parentheses the year. Or you can say, if you don't want to talk about the other, like it was discovered in a recent article that XYZ happened, period. At the end of the period, you would put this citation. Now the site, you don't have to get it after every single sentence, but if you've got a clump of sentences that you're using, and let's give an example of this. You can put one citation as long as it's covering everything in what was just said, if it's multiple sentences. Does that make sense? You want me to show you an example of this? Kind of how it's put together? Okay. But before I do that, so here's all the formatting for 3 or more authors. 3 or more, then you're going to use this et al., which is Latin for plus everyone else. Because otherwise, if we got like 15 authors, I don't want to have to sit there and write every single name, right? So it's a shortcut, but this is the accepted format in APA. For 2 authors, it looks like this. And then they're going to give you other variations. Unknown. What if you don't know the author? Okay. What if it's an organization like American Kinesiology Association or American Psychology Association, right? That's the author. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, 2 or more works in the same parentheses. So you could, let's say you wrote a paragraph that had multiple works cited as part of the sentence structure. Well, you could then cite multiple things right after that. It's just a formality, but this is the process of writing. Pain in the butt, right? Okay. Personal communication for interviews, letters, and emails. So maybe you interviewed someone, but you would want to make sure you cite them because it's not your information. Okay. Traditional knowledge of indigenous people, citing indirect sources. I rarely use a lot of this stuff. Electronic sourcing. Okay. So typically we're going to have this personal introduction, forwards, 2 or more. We'll have all this internet stuff. You can use the electronic sourcing. So that's just the in-text stuff. But then we have to look at, I showed you how we find, and if you use the library to get your information, you can always pull the APA citation for the reference page. That's why the library becomes powerful. It kind of provides this stuff for you. But let's say you find, like in this style, a lot of students do this, they just Google stuff and they find something online. Well, you're still going to have to cite that in a reference at the end. And so what you're going to see here is the reference list, the basic rules, reference list authors, reference list articles and periodicals. So like a magazine, a newspaper, reference list books, other print sources. So if you pull something from the web, you got to put it in your reference. You would go electronic source. And then this is going to explain to you how to do that. And it gives you an example. If it's a web page or a piece of online content, this is what you do. But you got to find what one it fits. Okay. If the page author is not listed, start with the title instead. It'll give you that example. Okay. So this is your real quick and easy resource. This Purdue OWL, I've given you those links, the single link after each of the assignments. Okay. And the Writer Center is going to totally give you this because this is like, we all use this. I'm still using this. Okay. So let me show you an example of how citing kind of looks in a larger paper. Let's see what we got for you, people. This is where I get to show off a little. All right, so here's my coursework. My dissertation. So right now, as I work on my dissertation, which is part of the doctorate process, it's very formal. I had to submit the first part of my dissertation. The program that I work for, the program, excuse me, that I'm enrolled in, builds the dissertation, which is going to be your big work discovery of something new through the research process. We all have to do it. It will build something new. What am I saying? The dissertation process typically happens at the end of your academic classes. So my doctorate is about 61 units. At the end of that, I would then start the dissertation normally. The program that I'm currently partaking builds the dissertation process inside of the classwork. Do you think that's an advantage? Yes, because by the time I finish all my academic classes, like you guys are going to finish your 60 units here, right? I then have my dissertation pretty much done, which is because a lot of times people are like, all right, now do your dissertation. You've learned how to do it all. Fuck. I shouldn't say that. I got to do all this stuff. How am I going to do this? Oh my God. And then it's on your own time. You've got like 2 years to do it. And you've got to self-motivate with no class structure to do it. So the reason why this is kind of a different conversation, but the reason why I picked this program was because I'm building the dissertation as I go. I found that very, very helpful for me. And when you're looking at, if you decide to go on to graduate school, you might want to look at some of the program structures if that's something you're interested in, because that can be of benefit knowing you best, right? And how you operate. So this is just part one. There's 4 classes. So this will be the introduction. I had written, and so abstract isn't done yet because we haven't done that yet. But this is essentially what the dissertation will look like, the table of contents. But I did write, and I had actually started this earlier. Now you're going to notice background information. We see that dissertations are slightly different than research articles, the way they're structured, because you're presenting this to a committee inside of the college. There's just different requirements. If this dissertation could be published, I would have to go back and reformat it to fit the academic journal that I'm going to be applying to. Just kind of, this is just, since I'm going through the process, you might as well learn a little bit about it. Is that fair? Okay. I hope it's not too boring. All right, but let's look at this for a second. So here's my initial first background information on what I'm looking at. So the title of my particular paper, let's just go back up here. How effective are online certifications at developing skills and confidence levels in fitness professionals? So we got to give a history as to why this thing is even important. I'm not going to read it all right now, but I'll read a little bit of it. In the United States, certified personal trainers have a variety of educational backgrounds and certifications, and the industry is unregulated. While there has been a push for personal trainers to be licensed, they will either have a bachelor's degree or a primary personal training certification. The first acronym is there, CPT. I will now refer to certified personal trainers from here on out as CPT. I will never spell out all 3 words. Okay. We've seen that in the research, right? They do the same thing. Just makes it easier. and mostly unregulated. My first citation comes from 2 research articles, Melton et al. 2021. So you see, this is 2 authors, and oh, and it's funny, this is wrong. It should be this, and it should be this. Yeah, for some reason that changed. Okay, I got to fix that. But you see now, period. And if we go back to, if you're like, wait, is that right or wrong? How would I know if that was right or wrong, that format? Where would I go? Purdue. There you go. So let's just double check, because maybe Peter forgot, because Peter's been looking at a lot of papers. I got a lot of things like, where did it go? Purdue. Where'd you go? Purdue, 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 Purdue. No, no, no. Did I delete it? My battery's low. Uh-oh. Purdue? No, there's a woman. This back. So in the Purdue OWL, you're going to see in-text citations. And they don't actually give you a great, they don't have like a sentence with the period. So the APA manual recommends using the author date citation structure and text citation reference. This structure requires any in-text citation within the body of the text be accompanied by corresponding reference list entry. If the text citation provided, so see, it doesn't really, I think that would be helpful, but normally it's period. I'm not seeing it anymore. Like, they're not given that. The only time they give you the example. Oh no, see here, they've got it this way. Interesting. I gotta, now, just to be clear, this is just a Purdue, the university provides this resource to be sort of like an easy, accessible resource. The APA citation book is about this thick, and it covers anything in the world you would ever need to cite. So I got to probably go back to the source and confirm where the period's supposed to be, because I don't know. I'm seeing it in 2 different ways now. Yeah, I don't actually see it the way I thought it was, but I've been writing that way recently. So, and this is also part of this process. The reason why these guides exist, you get into the habit of doing something, not realizing that, wait, maybe am I doing this right? Let me double check. You can forget or just get confused at where the punctuation is supposed to be. That's why these online resources are really helpful. Anyway, let's just leave it at that. So I've found my own conundrum that I have to solution, but let's go back to, we're doing okay. So back to my paper, where'd it go? It's right here. I don't like Google at all because I don't really know it. So I have to, is this add comment? How do anyone know how to zoom in on Google? But I got all this stupid stuff blocking it. In Google Docs. No, or Command Plus. Oh, there we go. In Apple, it's Command. All right. Let's just leave it as is for now. I'm going to go, because I don't want to tweak this right now. I'll have to double check that in the book. But you see, right? I'm not going to ding you for that if that comes up that way, because I'm still having to look at it. But notice this couple of sentences came from these 2 articles. Then I go into another sentence. The certification sector is owned and operated by over 70 private fitness certification organizations that offer approximately 300 different credentials. This comes from Myers. That's a different piece of information that is not common knowledge. So I have to use the resources. Now, we could argue this Myers article isn't that powerful, but it was the only thing I could find at the time. And I'm going to have to do some more preliminary digging into for this to find more literature review. The next part I have to do is what's called a literature review. And that's where I start to look at, I try and find every single piece of research that covers remotely the topic that I'm interested in pursuing here, which is certifications through the private sector. Currently, only 14 private fitness certification organizations offer CPT credentials that are accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies. This is a website. NCCA accreditation, no date. Okay, so it's a little different. And I just went there, counted up how many certifications are current, and then I put it in there, but I had to reference that because that's not common knowledge either. Currently, only 14 fitness certification organization. Oh, there it is. To become a CPT, you must be employable and be employable in most commercial and corporate fitness facilities. An individual must be 18 years old, blah, 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 blah. That information comes from here, certified personal trainer. So you're seeing, right? It's not every sentence, but it's the clump of sentences I'm going to refer to based on my PowerPoint, based on my research. I'm fashioning this part of my paper based on the information that's out there, but I have to cite it so that, because this is not common knowledge stuff. And part of this process also allows me to become the most knowledgeable person in the room, because I'm going to be presenting this to a dissertation committee and I'm going to have to defend it. And they're going to poke holes in it. They're going to ask me questions and I'm going to defend it. I guarantee I will be the most knowledgeable person in the room about all of this stuff by the time I'm done with this process. And I feel like I already am, but there's going to be some other things I'm going to discover through it. Is that helpful to kind of see how you have to use the in-text citations? You're only going to have one or two or three, maybe. When you do your research review portion of your paper, it's going to be based on the one article that you find. So this is a lot more work because it's just the nature of the doctorate work. If you go down to the very bottom, and then you're going to see all my references, right? And this is just one part of it. All alphabetical, double spaced, hanging indent because it's APA. But you're going to notice that, like the American Council on Exercise, this is their webpage, right? So this is a webpage citation. This is a research citation, another research citation. There's that. Did I misspell that? Institute for Credentialing Excellence. That's that org that approves certain certifications. That's a website. Okay, and it's just this is what I got. Like right now, just 3 pages. 3 pages of citations, but that's going to continue to grow as I finish this paper. So it's probably not unrealistic that I might have like 10, that's 3. If I do 4 more parts, probably at least another 3 or 4, maybe 5 pages of citations. So that process of looking at your research and digging into it can take time, especially when you're I'm only asking you to get 1 or 2 for your history and for your applied research article. This is an example of how, wow, it really does take a lot more time to fashion these research articles that we're all reading. And I want to reiterate the power in these articles, giving you all the tools to find the information, the real information. It's not easy, is it? Although yours was. Yours is kind of easy. But this is also, how do you know if you're kind of new and you have a question about the world and you want to see if the research exists? Maybe it doesn't exist yet. That's an opportunity. Like my research doesn't exist. That's what drives me. I'm doing something that no one's ever really looked at. People, excuse me, have talked about it, but no one's ever really done it. And that's inspirational for me, because I hopefully will get to leave a mark on this earth. I will, when all of these people die, right, this publication still exists. And granted, years will roll on and we'll go, we don't care about stuff that happened in 2025, right? It's the year 3035. But it's part of a legacy kind of deal. So, yeah. Good question. Well, you can. But part of that process, if you really want to do this, is going to graduate school. And you all have the ability to go to graduate school. What this comes down to is determination. You all have the smarts. It's not a lack of smarts. You're here. I talk to you every day. You guys are all more than capable. It's determination. It's fortitude. It's prioritizing this over something else. That's all that college is. Paying attention when you want to doze off. It is. That's what college is. And then saying, I have something due by this time. I need to get it done. That means I have to work on it now. That's all that this is. It doesn't seem that difficult when you think of it that way, right? Is it a pain in the butt? Yep. Are you going to take, especially at this level, courses that you don't love? Yep. And you're going to just have to power through it. Do you need to get A's in every single thing? Nope. Got to pass. Okay. You don't want that. Yeah, you don't want that. F's are easy to get. They demonstrate no effort, right? And this is demonstrated effort into learning and expanding the way you think about the world. Our hope and dreams after you guys graduate here is that we've expanded your depth of knowledge, that we've given you things to think about that you didn't even know. And you have now, you're able to sort of frame up the world and look at the world in a different way. Your impact, your influence on others, what you're capable of. This is the power of it. And it all comes down to really any textbook you read is all going to be backed up by research. All right. That's why there's a new textbook. We're using the latest version. The reason they do that every 5 years is because there's new research that comes out and has slight influence on that information. But by the time it gets in the textbook, it's usually 5 years old. You can find all the information right here, right now, through doing your own query inside of the research library database. Okay. All right. Any questions on that? Should I stop recording now?